Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the back doors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Hello everybody, this is Jay, back with another episode of the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So, we got some really cool stuff to talk about today. I'm really excited to talk about it. I can't wait to talk about this episode, so let's just jump right into it. So the first one, it's another one that has a little bit of a history with me. I saw the Punisher movie with Ben Affleck, and so here's the thing when it came to Marvel, at least for me, for the most part, before Iron Man. They did a number of different films. Sadly, most of them were not that good. And Daredevil was one of those films. It just was. It just was like, doing this as a movie, a lot of stuff, again, felt kind of rushed. It wasn't bad casting, but it just wasn't really that strong of a film. I mean, it's one of the stronger of sorts, Marvel films that came out at that time. But it was kind of not as strong as people had hoped, right? It's just the way it had gone. And really, we hadn't gotten any Daredevil else for a long, long time. And there was, of course, a reason for that. And then we got the Daredevil show, which, if you ask me, is probably one of the best Daredevil things they have ever done. Perfect casting, perfect stories, perfect characters, perfect plots. This is actually the show where they decided in season 2, let's bring Punisher back, but it's going to be an entirely different Punisher. And season 2 of the show, in a way, was sort of Punisher's origin story, sort of, in a manner of speaking. Matt Murdock, Daredevil, bumps into him and finds out, that even though he's a vigilante and he's kind of doing things that, Daredevil doesn't, necessarily agree with, he does see, hey, there's kind of like a point there where they go, you know what, I understand, though, why you're doing what you're doing, and, I hope you find what you're looking for. There's sort of like an partnership there for a little while, and John Bernthal came in as Punisher and knocked it out of the park. He was absolutely amazing, because remember, we've gotten a few Punisher movies, too. Now, the one with Dolph Lundgren, I must have missed, because I never saw that one. But the first one with Thomas Jane, I watched recently this last year. I'm sorry, it's a train wreck. It just is. It was horrible. Yeah, it's got John Panette in it. It's got Rebecca Romijn is in it. John Travolta's the bad guy. It's got good casting, but man, it was painful to watch. It was really, really bad. There's just no nice way to say that. And then they did another movie called Punisher Warzone, which I had never watched before. I thought it was a direct-to-video. It actually got a theatrical release, which I didn't know until watching it again. And it doesn't have, I think, almost anybody really known at all. But the weird thing about it is, it's better than the first film. I actually watched it and went, you know what, this is silly. It doesn't take itself seriously. The villain is silly, but it is all around somehow a better movie. It's just the way it is. So, like everyone really liked John Bernthal as the Punisher. He was very popular, very likable. Wonderful new, just kind of like redo of this character, like, they've been doing with a number of their characters, like, they've been doing with Daredevil and things like that. And of course, so when it was announced that, they're going to do a Punisher show, I was like, I'm not shocked about that. I think that's a great idea. Heck, I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait to see this show. And I got to see it. And you know what? Season 1, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I mean, we get to see, a bit more of, why, Punisher kind of chooses the path he does, a bit more about his past. There's, it's not as strong as bad guys as technically in Daredevil it was, season 2. But it's overall, it's not a bad show, It focuses on, Frank Castle and what's going on with him, and, I liked it. It was a good show. I can't say it's one of the best Marvel shows I've seen on Netflix. It just isn't. I mean, it's not. The bad guy isn't as strong as it is in, some of the other Marvel shows. It just overall wasn't as strong of a show. It just wasn't. It was one of those shows I'm like, hey, it's good. I watched it. But maybe it was just too because how Daredevil ended, you're like, do they really need, how can they do a show though? It's like how Daredevil season 2 ended, with Frank Castle, you're like, how could they do that? So that was kind of where I was at. So when I heard they're doing the show, I'm like, where is he going to go from here? And maybe there wasn't as much to go on as there was in that season. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that was it. And it's nothing against, John Bernthal, but no, he's an amazing actor. He does an amazing job with this role. He brings things to this character that I don't think anyone else could bring to it. I think it's just the way it is. So, it's nothing with, John Bernthal, the character itself. So, season 1 came and went, and then it got announced there was a season 2. I was, again, kind of shocked. I'm like, okay, how are they going to do that? Because, again, with how season 1 ends, you're like, yeah, they could do a season 2, but they don't really have to do a season 2. It wasn't like a cliffhanger, like, yes, there must be another season. We must see more. I want to see more. I want to see what happens next. That's not really how it ends. Not really. Just the reality. Just the truth. So it was like one of those endings where, if it got another season, fine. But if it didn't, I'm not going to cry any tears over it. That's just the truth. So it got announced, as in true Netflix style, shortly after first season ended. It's like, all right, there will be a season 2, but that's all we got. Now, just recently, this last week, and it's kind of interesting, but I'll get into it. We finally got to see our first teaser and date announcement for season 2 of The Punisher. And the teaser doesn't show you much because it's a teaser. That's just what teasers do. But you see, hey, Frank Castle is, back. He's facing something new. And it seems like in a trailer that came out shortly after, I guess he's dealing with his own demons from his past. I think it was going on. I don't even know if there's a strong villain this time or some new bad guy or some new evil organization. I don't know. But I guess that's what's happening this season. And, watching the teaser and watching the trailer, I'm like, okay, all right, so we know when it's coming out, but I don't know, it didn't get me that pumped for the season. Not really. After watching it, I'm like, okay. And the trailer, I was this way after the trailer. I'm like, okay, so we see where it's either him or someone with some mask. I don't know if it's supposed to be Jigsaw from Warzone. The trailer isn't even that long. And it made me wonder, okay, so what is this season even going to be about? And it kind of gives me a little bit of concern about this season. Because I'm like, because this was he's a popular character. John Bernthal does a great job with the character, but like I said, in season 1, he wasn't given much to do, and it wasn't as strong of a season because of that. And I fear this season may be going down the same path. I'm like, it's like, don't be wrong. I'm excited they're doing it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I'm just like, man, but is it going to be a strong season, or is it going to be not a strong season? Because if it's not a strong season, it's just not going to do the character justice. It's just not going to. And it's kind of weird too, so this is coming fast. It's coming quickly. This season airs on January 18th. That's only a few weeks away. So it's kind of weird to announce, yeah, we're doing it and it's coming out in the next few weeks. I'm like, well, that's fast. And I have talked on here before about other shows that have been canceled, some that were very surprising. And it gives me that fear too. It's okay if they're bringing out so quick. that I just want to get season 2 out of the way and then just, cancel like they have some other shows on Netflix and have it go to Disney Plus, whatever's going to happen next. So it's just like, man, is that why you're in such a rush to get this out? Is Jessica Jones season 3 going to have the same thing happen? So I don't know. Overall, I hope it's a good season, but I have some concerns and some doubts about it. I just really do. But you can see the teaser and you can see the little trailer now on Netflix, and I would say check them out. So we're going to take ourselves a short little break real quick, and we'll be back in a moment with more sci-fi news.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hello everybody, this is Jay back with some more sci-fi news. So this next one I am really, really excited about, and it's because I heard about this actually like a few years ago that they were doing a new one of this, and I will admit though at the same time, I was not really a huge fan of either original iteration. The show, Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego, I do remember watching as a kid a little bit here and there, and it was a fun little show, don't get me wrong. I mean, the theme song is very catchy. It's very iconic. I think it's a theme song that I hear and I'm still going to want to sing along to, and snap your fingers. It's a really, really good theme song. Don't get me wrong. It really is. I mean that. But at the same time, I don't remember watching it religiously as a kid, and I don't remember being really, just really, really into it. I just wasn't. Now, I want to say in the 90s, there was a cartoon series, and the same thing. I mean, I do remember watching some episodes. I didn't have anything against the show. It just was another show I didn't really watch that much. Not really. I remember there were the two players. There was Carmen Sandiego was stealing all these different things and doing all these different capers, and I want to say there was the giant talking head that I think was supposed to be in the computer that was I don't know if he was the guide or the narrator helping him get through, something like that. So I don't even remember the show that well, to be honest, clearly. But again, it was a fun show. I want to say it had maybe a few seasons. I want to say I don't really know. And the same thing with Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego. I mean, I want to say there's been video games about it. There's been these two things here, but I don't think there's been anything new Carmen Sandiego-wise for a good while. Well, Netflix is about to change this. And again, I had heard about this show, but I had not seen anything about it. I couldn't find anything about it. There was no clips, no teasers, no trailers, nada. You couldn't find anything about it for a while. You couldn't. Okay, they're doing this. Again, it's coming out in a couple weeks. But that's it. I heard nothing about it. And thankfully, this week, that finally changed with the first trailer, and it is an actual trailer, by the way, for the new Carmen Sandiego cartoon. And I cannot be more excited for this show. So, what's happening this time? How is this different from previous iterations of Carmen Sandiego we've gotten in the past? It's different in a number of ways. And you can see this in the trailer, by the way. So, in this show, there's only one player, not two. There is no giant, weird, animated talking head anymore. That isn't around anymore with the weird curly curl at the front. No. And this show wants to and plans on focusing on Carmen Sandiego herself. Yes, who is she? How did she become who she is? Why is she doing what she's doing this time? I mean, that's what it's all about. And this show promises to show you the origins of Carmen Sandiego, into becoming the master thief she is. That's what this wants to do. I don't personally know how many episodes this has. I want to guess around maybe 8 or 10, but that's just a guess. I don't really know. But yeah, we're going to get to see a different side of Carmen Sandiego. Gina Rodriguez voices her this time, and just from what I heard from the trailer, sounds freaking amazing. And we get to hear where, how her origins, how in this trailer we get to see, she originally got with, I think it was called Vile. And I guess it's like a top secret, like, burglar school or like villain school, like where you learn how to become like a master thief, right? So that's where this is. And this is where I guess her humble beginnings started. We get to see in this trailer where she meets an old friend or an old classmate on a train. So we get to see that. We get to see, that iconic, red coat and hat, which looks wonderful in this, by the way. And we get to see, just like a little bit like, who she is. There's some, I want to say it's, I want to say MI6 is agent is trying to catch her. And we get to learn, we get to learn in this trailer, hey, she might actually be stealing from, the very organization that, she got trained for, which is really, really interesting. And, we just get to see it's about 2 minutes, we get to see a good taste of what this show is going to be. And man, where do I begin with this thing? First of all, I love the animation. The animation looks wonderful. It really does. Vibrant colors. We're going to see plenty of different exotic locales. And there actually is kind of an enemy here, which like a bad guy, like someone that that isn't Carmen Sandiego, by the way. Carmen Sandiego, I guess what it says in this trailer is not the bad guy. It's someone else entirely. And it looks like they want to put a new spin on Carmen, which I don't know if this existed in the previous iteration of the cartoon. I don't think it did. But in this one, they want to show, hey, Carmen Sandiego is not going to be the bad guy in a manner of speaking. Not really. Which is going to be really, really cool. And, just I am really, really pumped for this show. I really am. I think it's a great idea for Netflix to do this. Most of the time, in my experience, Netflix knows what they're doing. They do a great job with stuff. They do a wonderful job, revamping, things or bringing new twists on things. And and it looks like just a really, really good show. It really does. And what else can I say about this thing? Like I said, it's just a trailer though, sadly. So you get to see in this trailer where, she's running from a heist. She's got someone trying to catch her. She gets away. Like I said, we get to see one of her old classmates. We actually get to see her at this school a little bit before. She's Carmen Sandiego, by the way. And and we get to see who she is and what she is and what they want to do with this. And I am really, really excited for this new show. I think it's going to do very, very well. I wish I could say more about it, but even though it's a trailer, it's almost just like an elongated teaser in the sense where you get to see, her in action. You get to see some stuff she's going through. You get to see plenty of things from her past, which I don't think any other previous iterations ever did to my knowledge. And that's just to my knowledge, because again, I didn't watch the cartoon show religiously. I didn't watch the show religiously. I just didn't. So I think that a lot of stuff they're doing here is brand new. It hasn't been done before, at least in an animated medium, to my knowledge. So they're doing a lot of stuff here. It sounds like a big risk, but from me watching this trailer a couple times now, I have faith in this new iteration. I have faith that, this is going to be good. They're going to do a good job, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I really do think that. I really think, hey, this is going to be a really, really fun show. And I hope it does really, really well. I mean that. I hope this is a show that, does well. Fans, young and old, really enjoy it, and it gets picked up for a couple seasons, because I would love to just see, what they could do with this. I really do mean that. If you are wondering, this first season also premieres January 18th on Netflix. So again, it's only in a couple weeks. It's going to be here before we know it. And you can watch that trailer now on YouTube. I'd highly recommend checking it out. So we're going to take ourselves another short little break, but don't worry, we'll be back in a moment with more sci-fi news.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello there, everybody. This is Jay, back with some more sci-fi news. So this last one is an interesting one because I do get to watch my share of TV shows. I do. I'm lucky I get to watch a good amount of TV shows, honestly, probably more than most people do normally. But there was a show that came on a number of years ago on ABC that, I'm sorry, from the get-go, I was not that impressed with, and I have actually not watched one single episode of, and this is Blackish. So yeah, it's got Anthony Anderson is on it. I remember watching the first trailer. It just looked like, hey, let's do a bunch of really funny, really weird, or what they thought was really funny African-American stereotypes. It's true, Lawrence Fishburne was on it, and he was the dad, fine. But I just remember watching it going, God, that show just looks terrible. It really does. I mean, I was expecting this is going to be a show that's going to go on TV. It's not going to do well. People are not going to like it. It's going to get the plug pulled quick. Well, this show is in its 5th season now, so I was wrong. And you know what? I'm learning lately, sometimes if I think a show is going to do well, it may not. And if I think a show is going to do bad, it may end up being on for much longer than I ever thought it would be on. That is just the truth. That is just what's happened lately. So, yeah, this is a show that's had a pretty good run so far, and I don't think said run is slowing down anytime in the near future. But how does this show, you may wonder, is, connected to the show I'm about to talk about? So, there was a show last year that got announced that is a spin-off of this show, which usually when I hear spin-off, I'm like, oh no, that's going to be really bad, that's going to do really poorly, and it's going to just blow up in a, fireball. That's just what I think. And I do that because there's some spin-offs I've watched, like that 80s show, which was a spin-off of that 70s show and just blew up in a fireball. And other spin-offs where, you're just like, they're not going to do well. That's just what happens often. There are always exceptions to this rule. This is true. But there's many a spinoff I've watched that just hasn't done that well and it hasn't lasted that long. It's just usually what happens. This show is called Grownish, and it focuses on the oldest daughter of the family, and her beginning trek to college. Now, this was a show that at first I was like, it sounds interesting, but there was still the warning, spin-off going off in my head. But I remember when I saw a trailer for it, I was like, you know what, though? It seems different. It seems a bit more clever to me. And frankly, I was intrigued. So I was lucky to get to watch this, the first season of this thing before it came on. And I have to say, I was really impressed with this show. And there's a couple of reasons. So the main reason I at least really grabbed onto this show and really, really liked Grownish Season 1 was because it seemed to me like it wasn't really focusing on the African American stuff so much and just more on the college experience. And personally, I can relate to it. I've actually gone to college, twice, and I actually have 2 degrees now. But the point is, like, where, you're leaving home for the first time, you're going on your own, and kind of how scary and, unfamiliar that all can be. I mean, I remember the first time I left home, I was like, man, this is, I don't really have someone telling me, hey, do your homework, hey, do this. Like you're kind of like your own parent. I know, at least for me, the first time, I wasn't ready for that. So this is a show that focuses on, Zoe, which is great character, by the way, played wonderfully, by the way, and her first year in college. The good times, the bad times, the good points, the bad times, the trials, the tribulations, the mistakes, the errors, the heartbreaks, all of that, and just kind of trying to survive your first year of college, right? And it was a show that I ended up liking a lot more than I thought I would. I was really, really surprised. I was just like, man, I did not think I was going to like this show this much, but I really, really like it. And I was lucky to get to watch, every episode of the first season, and it was just an amazing season. It really was, up to the end. And so, of course, when this show got announced for season 2, for the first time I wasn't shocked at all. I'm like, no, I totally see that happening. That makes plenty of sense to me, doing a season 2. It's like, yes, you should do a season 2 to this show. You know what? This makes sense to do a season 2 of this show. It really does. Because college is at least 4 years, so at least 4 seasons isn't a bad idea. It just isn't, And so recently, the first 2 episodes of season 2 have aired, and I'm going to talk to you a little about the first one, which is called Better. So, in this episode, it is a opener for season 2 where Zoe pretty much is like, you know what? I have a plan of how my sophomore year is going to begin. How it's going to go. It's basically, she talks about the beginning like a little monologue of like, this is going to be a sequel, but it's going to be like, like the sequel that everyone wants, not the sequel nobody wants. She wants everything to be different. She wants, better living arrangements, better understandings with friends, better classes, all like everything she wants. Like she wants to learn from all of her mistakes last year. That's what she, in a nutshell, is hoping to do. Is like, what? The mistakes I made last year, I will not make them this year. I promise you that. And of course, right away, things don't go as expected. They just don't. Her and 2 of her friends get a new place, but it is a trashed, messed up place that really needs a lot of work. She finds a way to, do a kickback and get people to fix it up. And she's with Luca now. And, things don't go how she plans them to go there at first either. They really don't. She has this whole great romantic idea. Hey, we're going to get together and, it's going to be this great wonderful thing, having cheese and wine and all this stuff because he came from Paris all summer. And that's not what happens. So right away, her, sophomore year starts bumpy. It just does. I don't know if I'd say as bumpy as her freshman year, but there's bumps. There's bumps along the way and kind of disappointments and just things not going as she planned. But in the end, when she, kind of just takes a step back and takes a few breaths, things do work out okay in the end. They do. Maybe not how she planned, but she does know, what? I think this year is going to be better. And I think personally, I think this was a great first start for this show, for this season. I mean that it's it was nice. A lot of the stuff that happened was really cool. And it got me really pumped for what's going to happen next. I really am. So, it's a great start. This is actually on Freeform, which used to be ABC Family. I know it's a little confusing. It still is for me, but it used to be ABC Family. Is now Freeform, I believe. So this show is on there. And I believe it airs on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. So, the first 2 episodes are available now. And I would highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out, check it out. And I would say you don't have to watch Blackish to understand it, because I haven't, and I understand this show, because this is a show that mostly just stands on its own. And I think it does a real good job standing on its own. And I personally hope that this is a show that we're going to get to see for a number of seasons to come. I really do. I think it has the potential to do really well there. I really do. I think it's got the potential to be a great show, a fun show, and a really clever, original, exciting show. I really mean that. I think it has that possibility and that potential. So anyway, so that's all we have for this episode. I had a lot of fun bringing all this stuff to you. I hope you had a lot of fun listening to it. You learned some really cool things and have some really cool things to look forward to, some TV shows, some movies, things like that. And if you haven't checked any of this stuff out, I would highly recommend it, and recommend them to your, friends too. I'd highly recommend that. So anyways, but don't worry. We'll be back real soon with more sci-fi news.